When this man's wife gave birth, he thought the universe was mocking him. Anna had been in labor for hours. She was exhausted, sweaty, and shaking with that strange mix of fear and joy that only comes when you're about to meet someone you've waited 9 months for. The hospital room smelled like disinfectant and warm blankets. Machines beeped softly. A nurse kept telling her to breathe, to focus, to hold on, just a little longer. Jeff paced near the window with his arms crossed, acting like he was calm when he wasn't. He had said all the right things during the pregnancy, how he couldn't wait, how he'd teach their son to throw a baseball, how Anna would be an amazing mother. He had even installed the car seat himself and bragged to his friends that he was ready for dad life. Then the baby cried for the first time. Anna barely registered anything except relief. She saw a tiny face, a little fist, a body that looked impossibly small for how big this moment felt. The nurse placed the baby against her chest, and Anna started sobbing. The baby's eyes were closed. He was breathing. He was real. "Hi," Anna whispered, kissing his forehead. "Hi, my love." A minute later, the nurse turned slightly so Jeff could see. Jeff stepped closer, and his expression changed so fast, Anna felt it before she fully understood it. His mouth opened, as if he wanted to speak, but nothing came out at first. He stared at the baby, then at Anna, then back at the baby again like he was trying to solve a puzzle that made no sense. "What is this?" he finally said, voice low. Anna blinked. "Jeff, it's our son." Jeff's face tightened. "That's not my son." The nurse froze. Anna's chest tightened too, like her body could feel danger coming. She looked down at the baby again, his beautiful brown skin, his dark hair, his tiny nose. Her mind raced. She didn't understand it either, not in that moment. But she knew one thing with complete certainty. She had not cheated. She had never even come close. Jeff took another step forward, eyes sharp, voice louder now. "Who's the father?" Anna's throat went dry. "Jeff, stop. Please stop. Answer me," he snapped. "Don't lie to my face." The nurse tried to speak something about genetics, about rare traits, about tests, but Jeff didn't care. His anger had found a target, and it landed on Anna like a storm. "We can do a DNA test," Anna said quickly, desperate. "Right now, as soon as they'll do it. Please. I don't know how this happened, but I swear to you I didn't." Jeff cut her off with a bitter laugh. "You expect me to believe that? You expect me to look at this and believe you didn't betray me?" Anna clutched the baby tighter, not to hide him, but because she suddenly felt like the whole world was trying to rip her life apart. Tears spilled down her face. "Jeff, please, don't leave. Not like this." He stared at her one last time, jaw clenched, then turned and walked out of the room. Anna waited for him to come back. Minutes passed, then an hour. Nurses checked on her. A doctor visited. The baby slept, woke, cried, slept again. Jeff didn't return. He didn't call. He didn't text. He didn't even ask if she was okay. By the time Anna was discharged, she felt like she'd lived a whole year inside that hospital room. 5 days of staring at the door every time footsteps passed, hoping it was him. 5 days of feeding her son and smiling through tears so the nurses wouldn't worry too much. 5 days of repeating the same sentence in her mind. "This can be explained. This will be fixed. He will listen." When she finally got home, Jeff was there technically. But he wasn't the husband she married. He barely looked at the baby. He barely looked at her. He walked past them like they were strangers who had wandered into his house by mistake. That first night, he slept in the guest room. The second night, Anna couldn't take it anymore. She waited until the baby was asleep, then walked down the hallway and knocked softly on the guest room door. Jeff opened it just enough to glare at her. "What do you want?" Anna swallowed. "I want you to talk to me." "There's nothing to talk about." "Yes, there is." Her voice shook, but she forced it steady. "You think I cheated. I didn't. I love you. I've only ever been with you. We can do a DNA test tomorrow. We can do 10 tests if you want. But you can't just—" Jeff's face twisted with contempt. "A DNA test? Why would I waste money proving what everyone can see?" Anna felt like the floor shifted under her. "Jeff, that doesn't make sense. Genetics can do strange things. People have ancestry they don't know about. There are explanations. There's only one explanation, Jeff said coldly. You betrayed me. Anna's eyes filled again. Jeff, please, please don't do this. We made vows. We promised. He shoved the door wider, voice low and sharp. Get out. Anna didn't move. No. Jeff's eyes flared. Pack your things. Take the baby. Go find whoever you did this with. Anna's mouth opened, but no words came. She felt her heart pounding, like it was trying to escape. You can't be serious. I'm serious, Jeff said, and his voice had a finality that scared her more than the shouting had. If you don't leave, I'll make this house unbearable for you. Anna backed away from the door like it had burned her. She stumbled into the hallway and sat on the carpet, pressing her hand over her mouth to keep from making a sound that would wake the baby. She cried silently until her throat hurt. That night, she called her sister. Her sister didn't ask questions. She didn't judge. She just said, I'm coming. When her sister arrived, they packed what they could: clothes, diapers, bottles, a few baby blankets. Anna kept looking toward the front door, praying Jeff would come out, that he'd stop them, that he'd say, I'm sorry, I panicked. But the house stayed quiet. No footsteps, no apology, no love. 2 days later, Anna woke up and checked the bank account she shared with Jeff. It was empty. Every dollar gone. Her hands started to shake. She refreshed the screen, thinking it was a mistake. She checked again. Still zero. Her heart thudded like a warning drum. She drove back to the house. When she arrived, the locks had been changed, and through the windows, she saw something that made her knees go weak. The house was empty. Jeff's things were gone. Her things were gone. Even the baby's things. Crib, stroller, the gifts from family, gone, as if the last months of her life had been erased. Inside, taped to a wall, was a piece of paper. Anna ripped it down with trembling fingers and read it with blurry eyes. It was a note from Jeff. It said he couldn't live with her betrayal, that he was filing for divorce, and that she should never try to contact him again. Anna sank to the floor in the empty living room and made a sound that didn't even feel human. It was grief and shock and rage, all tangled together, pouring out of her like a flood. 2 weeks later, the divorce papers arrived. Anna signed them, not because she agreed, because she was exhausted, because she was terrified, because every time she tried to imagine fighting, she pictured Jeff's cold eyes and realized she might be battling someone who had already decided she didn't matter. So she focused on the one person who did matter, her son. She named him Jaden. Jaden grew fast. He had a calm, curious energy as a baby, the kind who stared at lights and faces like he was studying the world. Anna poured love into him like it was oxygen. She sang to him when she cooked. She rocked him when he cried. She kissed his cheeks until he squealed with laughter. And she went back to work, because love didn't pay rent. Anna worked customer service at a small finance office. She dropped Jaden at daycare every morning, then drove to work with her stomach clenched, praying nothing would go wrong. She watched other families, sometimes parents laughing together, splitting responsibilities, and she'd feel that old ache return. At work, she wasn't the same. The bubbly, friendly Anna became quiet and tense, like she was holding herself together with string. Her supervisor, Pedro, noticed. Pedro was a widower. He carried his grief in a calm, steady way that didn't seek attention. One day, he asked Anna to come into his office. "You're not yourself," he said gently. "What's going on?" Anna tried to smile. "I'm fine." Pedro didn't push. He just waited, like he had all the time in the world. And something in that patience broke through her defenses. Anna's eyes filled. She told him everything: the hospital, Jeff's accusations, the divorce, the money, the empty house. Pedro's face tightened with anger, not at her, but for her. "You didn't deserve that," he said quietly. From that day, Pedro became a steady presence in Anna's life. At first it was small, checking if she'd eaten, reminding her to take breaks, bringing her coffee. Then it became more personal. He'd ask about Jaden. He'd offer help without making her feel like a charity case. On weekends, he sometimes stopped by to drop off groceries or take them to the park. Jaden loved him instantly. He'd run to the door when Pedro arrived, giggling like it was the best part of the day. Months passed. Anna began to heal. Not fully. Some scars don't vanish, but enough that she could breathe again. Enough that she could laugh when Jaden did something silly. Enough that she could look in the mirror and recognize herself. A year later, Pedro told her the truth. "I care about you," he said, "and I care about Jaden. I know you've been hurt, but I'd like us to be more than friends." Anna wanted to say yes. Part of her did. But another part was still haunted by Jeff. The humiliation, the betrayal, the way her life had been ripped apart overnight. She wasn't ready to risk her heart again, so she said no. Pedro nodded, disappointed but respectful. "I understand." And he stayed anyway. The turning point came on an ordinary evening. Anna was cooking when she heard Jaden scream from the living room. She panicked and rushed, knocking over a pot of hot sauce. It spilled over her legs. Pain exploded through her body, white hot and immediate. She screamed, trembling, trying not to scare Jaden. Her sister was out of town. She had no one else to call. So she called Pedro. He arrived fast, drove her to the hospital, and stayed until she was admitted. Then he looked at Jaden confused, crying, clinging to his mother, and knelt down. "It's okay," Pedro said softly. "I've got you." He took Jaden home. He fed him, bathed him, read him a story, and when Jaden finally calmed down, Pedro carried him gently, like he was made of glass. The next day, Pedro brought Jaden to visit Anna. Jaden ran into the room and climbed onto the bed carefully, tears on his cheeks. Pedro stood back, watching with a protective expression Anna had never seen on Jeff, not once. And then, Jaden said something that made Anna's chest tighten. "Papa," he called, reaching for Pedro. Pedro froze. Anna froze. Jaden didn't mean harm. He just meant comfort, safety, love. And Anna realized something quietly, almost like the universe whispering in her ear. Jeff had walked away from a family. Pedro had built one. When Anna came home, she thought hard for days. Then she walked into Pedro's office at work and closed the door. "I was scared," she admitted, "but I don't want to live afraid. I love you." Pedro's eyes softened. He crossed the room and hugged her so gently she started crying again this time, not from pain, but relief. Their relationship grew slowly, carefully. Pedro didn't rush. He didn't demand. He showed up. Every day. 2 years later, on Anna's birthday, Pedro arranged a small surprise at the office. Balloons, a cake, smiling coworkers. And inside the cake, hidden carefully, was a ring. Pedro dropped to one knee. "I want to do life with you," he said. "And I want to be Jaden's father, if you'll let me." Anna said yes, through tears. They married 3 months later. Jaden wore a tiny suit and looked proud, like he finally understood what it meant to belong. Years passed. Jaden became the kind of young man parents pray for bright, respectful, ambitious. He graduated high school, then studied computer science. When he landed his first big job at a tech company, Pedro hugged him so hard Jaden laughed. Anna watched them and thought, this is what love looks like. Not words, actions. And then, on Jaden's birthday, his 21st, someone they never expected to see appeared at the gate. A man stood there, older and rougher, clothes wrinkled, face hollow. He looked like life had squeezed him dry. Jaden stepped forward politely, about to offer him a drink. Anna's voice turned cold. "Jaden, that's Jeff." Jaden's body went still. Jeff, his biological father, swallowed hard. Then he dropped to his knees, tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he said. "I made the biggest mistake of my life. I lost everything. My job, my money, my health. I had a stroke. I thought maybe you'd forgive me." Jaden's anger burst out like a flame. "You left us!" he shouted. "You called me a mistake before you even knew me!" Jeff tried to explain. He rambled about a toxic relationship, about being drained, about regret, about realizing too late what he had destroyed. But Anna's face didn't change. "You're not here because you love us," she said calmly. "You're here because you're alone." Jeff flinched, like the truth hurt more than any insult. Pedro stepped beside Anna, steady and silent. Jaden looked at Jeff, breathing hard, then said the words that ended it. "My father is right here." He gestured to Pedro. Leave, Anna added, and don't come back. Jeff stood slowly, shame written all over him, and walked away. This time, no one chased him, because sometimes the unbelievable event isn't a miracle reunion. Sometimes it's something quieter, a woman who survives cruelty and chooses love anyway, a child who grows up and learns his worth, and a man who proves that being a father isn't about blood. It's about staying.